Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're strapping in for a pretty turbulent ride. I think that's the only way to put it, right? We're diving into the world of Web3 video
Oh,
games.
yeah. It's a charged topic.
Yeah.
Definitely. You see it online and it's
Yeah,
completely polarizing.
exactly. Is this really the future of entertainment, with real ownership for players, or is it just an overhyped scam wrapped in a bunch of crypto buzzwords?
Right.
So for you listening, our goal here isn't to take a side, it's to cut through all that noise. We're going to try to explain what a Web3 game actually is, at a high level, and then get into how the tech changes the whole power dynamic, and maybe most importantly, why that first big wave, the whole play to earn thing, crashed so hard.
And I think it's important to look past the headlines here. What we're really looking at is the plumbing,
Yeah.
the technology itself. It enables some really new possibilities, especially around ownership.
Mm.
But, and this is the key thing, the source is all stress. Just having this tech doesn't automatically make a game fun
Oh, we're fair.
or fair or
Okay.
economically stable. That's the really hard part.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's start with the core difference. So say I'm playing a huge online game, a traditional one, an MMO, a card game, whatever. I spend real money on a rare skin. What's the actual functional difference between that item and one in a Web3 game?
The difference really just, it boils down to control and custody.
Hmm.
In that traditional game, your skin, your card, it lives on the company's server, period.
Right, in their database.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What you've bought is a license to use that item inside their sandbox.
And only their sample.
And you can't legally sell it for real money outside of their system. And if they shut the servers down tomorrow,
Poof, it's gone. You're left with nothing.
you're left with nothing. Now, in the Web3 model, the game connects to a public blockchain.
Okay.
So certain parts of the game, the assets, the currencies, even some of the rules, they're stored on this decentralized network. And that connection enables three really powerful shifts. First, those in-game items can become NFTs, non-fungible tokens, that you actually own in your own personal crypto wallet,
Outside of the game's control.
totally outside. And second, the in-game money can become a token, a crypto asset you can trade or sell anywhere.
Okay, hang on. Let's pause right there for a sec because those terms get mixed up all the time. A token versus an NFT. Let's just quickly clarify the difference for everyone.
Good call. A fungible token is.
Yeah.
It's just like regular currency. $1 is the same as any other dollar. In a game, that's your gold coins, your mana potions, they're all identical.
Right, interchangeable.
Exactly. But a non-fungible token, an NFT, is unique. Think of it like a deed to a house or one-of-a-kind painting.
So in a game, that would be my specific character with its unique stats or a named legendary sword.
Precisely. Or a specific plot of land. The blockchain just verifies that it's the one and only and tracks who owns it.
Got it. Okay, so fungible tokens are the money, NFTs are the unique items. You said there was a third shift, the most abstract one.
Yeah, the third one is that some of the game logic can run as what we call smart contracts. These are basically tamper-proof programs that live on the blockchain. They just run automatically when certain conditions are met, no human approval needed. So they can act as this immutable automated rule book.
For what, though? Like, what kind of rules?
It could define how a new item is crafted from other items, or how a tournament prize pool automatically pays out to the winners, instantly and verifiably.
That sounds amazing in theory. True ownership, transparent rules. But I have to push back on that true ownership idea. If the developer still controls the servers, the art, the actual game world, and they go out of business, I might have the NFT in my wallet, but what do I really own? Isn't it just a broken link to a skin I can't use anymore?
That is the absolute million-dollar question, and it's why the concept is, well, it's often packaged in a misleading way. You're owning the verifiable record of ownership,
The receipt, basically.
a permanent public receipt. Now, if the original game dies, yes, the utility of that NFT vanishes, unless other developers decide to build a new game that recognizes that NFT and gives it new life.
So its future value depends on a wider community supporting it.
Exactly. It's not guaranteed.
Okay, that reframes it. Now, what about the governance part? We hear the term DAO thrown around a lot. What does that mean for how these games are run?
A DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, is maybe the most radical idea here. Some projects let the people who hold the game's tokens vote on proposals.
So they get a say in game balance or what features to build next?
Theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
Or even how the project's treasury is spent. It tries to move governance from a CEO to a sort of a community consensus.
But wait a minute. Game development has to be fast, right? You need to ship a balance patch on a Tuesday if something is broken.
Hmm.
How does a slow, consensus-driven DAO possibly work for a competitive online game?
And that's the massive friction point the sources all highlight. Game designers need to be agile. DAOs are, by nature, bureaucratic. A lot of the early attempts just led to gridlock. Slow decisions.
And I imagine a lot of selfish voting.
Oh, absolutely. Players just voting for whatever pumps the value of their specific tokens, not what's good for the game's health long term.
So how do they solve that?
The more successful models seem to delegate most day-to-day decisions back to the studio. The DAO is reserved for just high-level strategic votes. It's a balance.
Okay, so with those building blocks in place, let's talk about the different flavors of these games. Web3 game isn't just one thing, it's kind of an umbrella term, right?
It is, yeah. We can basically sort them into three main camps depending on how much you, the player, actually see the blockchain stuff.
Let's start with the one called Web 2.5, the stealth approach.
This is the model that really puts fun first. The goal is to make it feel like any other game. You might just log in with an email.
So the blockchain is kind of invisible?
It's running quietly in the background, yeah. It only shows up for optional features. Maybe you want to trade a wear card on an external marketplace. That's when you'd interact with it. But the ownership part is there only if you, the advanced user, want to engage with it.
The goal is to avoid all that complexity that scares normal gamers away.
Exactly. Then you have the total opposite end of the spectrum. Crypto native or on-chain games.
The deep end.
The deep end, for sure. These games fully lean into DeFi, decentralized finance, and complex financial game theory. To play them, you really need to know your way around crypto. You're signing transactions, paying gas fees. It's very hands-on.
Because they feel less like a game and more like a financial puzzle.
That's a great way to put it. They're high-risk experiments really aimed at crypto power users.
And that brings us to the third one, the one everyone remembers from the headlines. GameFi, or play to earn, P2E.
This is where gaming and finance smashed right into each other. The central promise, the main selling point, was that you could earn tokens or NFTs just by playing the game.
And that these things would have a stable, real-world value you could cash out.
And this is where it gets fascinating, because that economic model created this massive boom, followed by an equally massive bust.
Right. Let's get into the tokenomics 101 here, because this is the real aha moment. This is where it all went wrong.
To understand the failure, you have to look at the balance between sources and sinks.
Sources being how money is created and enters the system.
And sinks being how that money is removed from the system permanently. And the poster child for this whole era was Axie Infinity.
Right.
At its peak, this game was generating life-changing income for people, especially in countries like the Philippines. It had something like 2.8 million people playing every day.
That scale is just, it's mind-boggling. So if it was working so well for so many, what broke?
The tokenomics were just fundamentally flawed. These P2E games gave out huge amounts of their tokens for doing really simple, repetitive tasks.
That's the source. High emissions.
Very high emissions.
Yeah.
So players were just grinding away to earn these tokens with the primary goal of selling them on an exchange for cash.
So the whole system was just printing money that was immediately leaving the ecosystem.
Precisely. And here's the fatal flaw. There were not enough compelling reasons, not enough sinks, to spend or lock up those tokens inside the game.
There was no utility.
Very little. There weren't enough things like, needing to burn a ton of tokens to upgrade your character or enter a high-stakes tournament, things that would take money out of circulation.
So if everyone is earning and selling and no one is spending, the price can only be propped up by one thing.
New money. The model depended entirely on a constant, never-ending flood of new players buying in to pay the old players.
It's a classic bubble.
Absolutely. The second that growth slowed down, the selling pressure just completely overwhelmed the buying pressure. Prices cratered, the earnings vanished, and the whole thing entered a death spiral.
It really showed that the token has to be useful in the game, not just be a speculative chip you can dump. That economic meltdown is obviously the biggest reason for the crash, but it's not the only reason so many mainstream gamers are still so hostile to Web3. Why is Web3 games still such a red flag for so many people?
The skepticism is really deep, and it's built on a whole series of reputational hits. The space just got off to a terrible start.
You mean the bad first impressions?
Exactly. A lot of the early projects were they were low effort. They were clearly more focused on selling tokens than on making a fun game.
Gamers can smell that a mile away.
They're a sophisticated audience. They know when they're being treated as exit liquidity instead of a community.
Then you have the environmental angle, which still comes up all the time.
It does. And even though most new blockchains are way more energy efficient now, that initial association with Bitcoin's massive energy use,
Yeah.
it just stuck. It tainted the whole category for a lot of people.
And the general chaos of the crypto world, the scams, the rug pulls, didn't help.
Not at all. All those high-profile failures in the wider crypto space made gamers incredibly wary. So when a big publisher like Ubisoft tried to roll out NFTs, the community backlash was just instantaneous and ferocious. They saw it as nothing but a corporate cash grab.
And we come back to the final huge barrier. It's just too complicated.
It's the friction. Absolutely. Mainstream gaming is about one-click installs and easy payments. The idea of managing your own private keys, paying gas fees, it's completely alien to the average gamer and frustrating. Until that becomes invisible, it's a huge roadblock.
Okay, so let's say you're listening to this. You're a curious tech person and you still want to explore the space cautiously. How do you do that safely?
The first rule is to keep a fun-first focus. You should really look for games where the Web3 stuff is optional, that Web 2.5 model we talked about. Avoid the games that demand a huge upfront investment in an NFT just to get started.
And rule number 2 has to be about security, right?
It's a non-negotiable.
Hmm.
If you use your own wallet, which gives you real control, you also take on all the responsibility. Your seed phrase, that little list of words, is everything. You write it down, you put somewhere safe offline, and you never share it with anyone.
Because there's no customer support to call if you mess up.
None. One mistake, and your assets are gone forever.
And finally, just be smart with your money.
Yeah, start with an amount you are genuinely okay with losing. Treat it like paying for a hobby or an experiment, not an investment. If a game is pushing you to buy expensive NFTs right away, that's a huge red flag.
So this is where it gets really interesting for me. After that whole boom and bust cycle, what are the analysts saying now? Where is this all heading?
The main prediction is a split. A great divergence, you could say. The consensus is that the vast majority of successful games will use the blockchain as invisible infrastructure for ownership, for marketplaces, but the player won't even need to know it's there.
And the other side of the split.
A much smaller niche of those crypto-native, hyper-financialized games will still exist for that core group of users who actually enjoy that complexity.
And the industry is obviously working hard on that user experience problem.
Oh, absolutely. The big push is for better UX. We're talking social logins that create a wallet for you in the background, gasless transactions so the player never has to think about fees.
Yeah.
Just removing all that friction.
And hopefully learning from the economic mistakes.
Yes. A huge move towards sustainable economics. The big lesson was learned. You can't just rely on new players to pay the old ones. Rewards have to come from real value created inside the game's economy. The focus has to be on fun and retention first.
So let's try to sum this all up. The key takeaway here seems to be that Web3 tech, it does enable something genuinely new, right? True item ownership, new ways to fund games. But that first big economic model, play to earn, it was fatally flawed. It turned entertainment into a really unstable financial scheme.
And that means if you're exploring this space, you have to be incredibly discerning. You need to appreciate what's actually innovative, that verifiable ownership part, while being really careful to avoid the pitfalls, the speculative hype, the security risks, and the projects that just don't have a fun game at their core. I do want to leave you with one final thought, though. We've talked a lot about the economic risks, but I think we should consider the psychological risk. When you blur that line between gaming, which is supposed to be an escape, it's entertainment and finance, which is about investment and anxiety.
When your hobby becomes your portfolio.
Exactly. When you're constantly checking the price of your assets while you play. How does that fundamentally change the experience of play itself? Does combining those two things just drain all the joy out of it? That's the deeper challenge I think designers in this space really have to solve.
A compelling thought, and one that goes way beyond the tech. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel better equipped to navigate this very complex, very new landscape.